I think you ought to know about men's radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. And radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
No, ladies and gentlemen, hello. I'm Russ Kane. This is The Daily Show. Welcome to Men's Radio Station. No Phil today. He has a family commitment. I mean, how long does it take to put the bins out at his mother's house? How long? The weakest excuse I've ever heard. That jingle, of course, sung, composed, words, etc. by the great Ray Gelato, who had his birthday this week. I'll be seeing him tomorrow, as it's Saturday, part of the Secret Saturday Cigar Trio. Shh. And everyone says, can we join? And we all go, nah, you can't. Right. It's been a hell of a week. And it's all bad. So let's just try and brighten ourselves up. Should we just brighten things up a little bit? I think we should. It's interesting. During COVID, what was the first thing kicked under the bus? The arts. What was the first thing I was really, thinking, no, art is so important. Speaking of art, our wonderful theatre critic, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jonathan Baz.
Russ, great to be with you again. Good afternoon. Last time it was solo with Phil. This time it's solo with your good self.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Your whole demeanor is so huge. We can't both deal with it. We can't. We have to be on standby. We have to be on standby because if we're both affected, that's my clock falling down. If we're both affected, there'll be no show.
You affected? Never.
Yeah. Hey, wah. What have we got going here? It says Chrissy Richards. She's in Spain on a farm in the middle of freaking nowhere. Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Russ. Congratulations. Are we still getting the book? Yeah, I'm 40,000 words or more into the book now. I probably won't be out till 2025. I mean, publishers take forever, but it'll be done. It's got to be delivered by Christmas, which is why I've cancelled all my social arrangements. Graham Pack, who lives in, I haven't the faintest idea. I see you have your normal glasses on today and no longer look like Roy Orbison. That is so sweet. You know, Graham, I drove all night just to be with you. I didn't really. Right. What have you seen? What have you got? Probably the most important thing that you are going to be reviewing in maybe a week or two's time is Unwise, but Not Illegal. On Sunday, the 5th of November. No point in having a radio station. You can't plug your own stuff. November the 5th, Sunday. 3 o'clock show. I think there's about 2 tickets left. 6 o'clock show. There's maybe 4 or 5 tickets left. That's it. Otherwise, we're sold out both shows. German Street Theatre. There's the box office number. If you're listening and not watching, 0207 287 2875. I'll give you that number again. 0207 287 2875. That is the box office number of the German Street Theatre to come and see my show, Unwise but Not Illegal. It is brutal. Right, mister, what you got going?
Well, I mean, I was just going to pick up on the Roy Orbison theme, Russ, and at the end of your show, are you going to be singing "It's Over"?
Let me think about that. No. Okay, let's answer that question, and I think I've dealt with it fairly comprehensively. Okay, JB.
Right. Okay, a few shows to whiz through.
No,
today.
don't have to whiz.
First up.
Yeah.
Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, with Nicole Scherzinger.
With Nicole Scherzinger.
Yeah.
Or as it's advertised on the marketing, Sunset Boulevard. Full stop. Jamie Lloyd has abbreviated it left, right, and centre, stripped it back as far as he possibly can. And I'm going to argue that he's gone too far. and stripped back so that the bones of the show are showing, and there's more emotional flesh that is needed that he has chosen to strip out of this production.
Can I ask a couple of questions, Jonathan, while I've got
Feel
you?
free.
One, it's on at the, I was surprised it's on at the Savoy, am I right? Because that's a very small, intimate theatre, isn't it?
You are right, sir.
And number two, it was a strange, initially it seemed to me, what the hell do I know? I don't. By the way, before we go any further, it's just occurred to me, we should pay tribute, as this is your slot, to the great Bill Kenwright, who passed away this week.
You're going to
do that? That's great. That's
we'll
great. Okay, that's great. He was a marvelous man. Incredibly nice to me. Incredibly supportive to everybody. A great loss to the world of art. Anyway, go on, JB.
Sunset. You had one question. You had two questions. You only asked the first.
Initially, everyone's saying, well, that's a weird choice. She's way too young, Nicole Scherzinger, to play Norma Desmond. Years ago, I was at a very small private charity event. And on stage came, to my utter amazement, Joss Stone, followed by Nicole Scherzinger. You couldn't make it up. And it was really a very intimate charity event for, I can't even remember what the hell it was. And I'm not a huge Joss Stone fan, but she was good. I mean, she was very good. Nicole Scherzinger, my God, she blew the roof off. She was a sensation, absolute sensation. So I wasn't quite so doubting when everyone said, "Ooh, I don't think she's the right person," because boy, is she talented. Whenever, really is talented. Anyway, your review.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. In my review, I said she's got a voice of anthemic, stadium-filling power, and in some of the dance routines as well. Her athleticism and the way she moves across the stage is phenomenal. But Norma Desmond is meant to be one of Hollywood's has-beens, perhaps the greatest has-been there ever was, having once upon a time been the greatest star. And Nicole Scherzinger plays her as someone, in some respects, who's closer to the peak of her career rather than the trough of her career. There's a great line in the final act of the show, the denouement moment, where the writer, Joe Gillis, who's the protagonist opposite Norma Desmond, says there's nothing wrong with being 50 unless you're acting 20. And in fact, in this show, they changed that line to there's nothing wrong with being 40 unless you're acting 20. And the maths, the difference between 40 and 20 is less impactful than the difference between 50 and 20. So
it's a world of difference.
Down. They've dialed it down.
Yeah.
She is brilliant at singing the songs, and her two big numbers are With One Look, and to be fair, With One Look was outstanding. But her other banger of a number in the second half, which is a fascinating insight into mental health as well, which is As If We Never Said Goodbye, when she steps back into Paramount Studios, Hog-Eye, the lighting operator, shines a spotlight on her, and in that split second, she's moved back 30 years in time to when she was the greatest movie star in the world. And of course, she isn't now because talkies have overtaken her. And that song, it's a brilliant tune and some fabulous words from Don Black and Christopher Hansen. And done well, you have that mixture of spine-tingling, hairs on the back of your neck standing up. And done well, you can be sobbing as well, because she's a woman who's absolutely broken but doesn't know it. And the mental health story that song is singing is massive. She, for me, emotionally did not connect. She sang the song fantastically. She got 10 out of 10 for the way she sung it, for her voice. But as far as emotional connection, I sat there dry-eyed and disappointed that she hadn't plucked any heartstrings. If you love the show, then go and see it purely for the sake of curiosity to see what it is. Other people would say go and see it because it's a fabulous interpretation of the show. That's not my take on it. It's not a must-see by any means. But if you like Nicole Scherzinger if you like the tunes, the music, Alan Williams is on the baton down in the pit. The music is fabulous. The supporting cast, everyone's been dressed in black and white. There's a lot of close-up video work. Video has a lot to do with this production. And to be fair, it's all about the silent movie era and close-up faces on the screen. So that works to an extent. I actually think Jamie Lloyd has overplayed his hand with the video work. Some of it is far too smug and in jokery. So yeah,
like what? Like what?
You know,
Do they take it out
act,
into the actual street of London or something?
The second act opens, as you may know, with the title number, Sunset Boulevard, which Joe Gillis sings. It's his big solo number. This starts up in this production. There's a cameraman with Joe Gillis in his dressing room who tracks Joe through the backstage labyrinth of the Savoy Theatre, past dressing rooms that are named with the actor's real name. So you wander into Nicole Scherzinger's dressing room, where she scribbled mad about the boy in lipstick on the mirror, which is, of course, all part of the show. Look closely, you'll see there's a handgun lying on the table in Nicole Scherzinger's dressing room. Then he wanders out of the dressing room, out through stage door, up onto the Strand, round the corner, back into the front door of the Savoy, and bursts in onto the stage to finish the song on stage. It's all a little bit too smug and clever by half. Doesn't add anything, in my opinion, to the show. There could have been more that they did with this show. I was expecting more. I was expecting Jamie Lloyd to do more with the Me Too era that's emerged into our consciousness. The level of abuse. The level of abuse that has been exposed in Hollywood, which has been there forever. The casting couch has been there for, yeah, it's been there forever. This is the first production that's really been eye-opening since Me Too hit the headlines, and I thought Lloyd could have made more of that. Like I say, if you love the show, go and see it. If you love Nicole Scherzinger, go and see it.
What did the audience think about it, Jonathan? Was it
the audience were predominantly going mad for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's popular. She led the Pussycat Dolls. I had the pleasure of hanging out with one of them in Los Angeles. I had no idea who she was. It was a little bit embarrassing because I didn't know who she was. I've been talking to her for about 10, 15 minutes. I didn't clue who the hell she was. That's how I go through life. But she is super talented. Super duper talented, and there's no set. Is there very little set? Because I don't like that. I'm kind of old school. I like it. There's no set at all.
There is no set. There are no props unless they choose to have props. So
I don't like that.
There's a scene early on in the show where Norma Desmond gives Joe Gillis the script that she's been working on, which typically should be piles and piles of paper, and you see him raise his eyebrows to the heavens at what is this garbage that she's been writing, because of course it's garbage. And in this instance, there is no prop. You don't see, there's nothing there. But however, they do have to have the real prop of a gun lying on her dressing table in this interval movie in a show thing. So it's a little bit inconsistent, but there's no scenery, no props. It's all black and white. Well, it came from the era of black and white Hollywood. So that makes sense. It's not a must-see. But it's, as I said, it's a flawed interpretation, but it's very entertaining and you won't be bored. Or possibly you may be.
One thing, is there actually an orchestra there, or is it done to track?
Oh, yes.
There is an orchestra.
Yes. Alan Williams, as I mentioned, down in the pit, brilliant on the baton. And the music, Andrew Lloyd Webber's score, is done gorgeously.
I remember years ago, I went to see Danny don't ask, it was a business thing. I went to see Danny Minogue in Notre Dame or something, and it was all done to click track, and the atmosphere was like a 5-day-old pizza. I mean, it was just miserable. No atmosphere at all. And people who say, you don't need a live orchestra, you can just do it to a track. It's the world of difference. World of difference. And presumably these tickets aren't cheap.
Well, you say that. Tickets are available. It's being pushed very heavily on social media with ticket prices starting at 20 quid.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
So the answer is it is not a complete sellout. There are tickets available every night. I'm half inclined, I don't think I will. On Monday nights, Nicole has the night off. She's replaced by Rachel Tucker. who I haven't seen, so I can make no comment on her performance at all. But I know Rachel to be a musical theatre actress of the very highest standard. So there's a part of me that's intrigued, if I had the time, to go and see it on a Monday night again, to see quite how much more she makes of it. Because certainly, as I say, that song, As If We Never Said Goodbye, done well, that's an outstanding heartbreaker.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, when it came out, I think I was still at Capital Radio, and we used to get tickets to everything. I mean, just ludicrous. And we'd always go to press nights, not gala nights. I had no interest in red carpets. I still avoid them like the plague, as I've mentioned to you privately. But I like going to press nights. Is fun because you can just go in and, you know, as yourself, you have to put up with all that nonsense on the red carpet, which I loathe. And I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal, you know. But I remember her coming down the staircase, and there was a big set. Okay, well, you know, I think if you...
I mean, you know, I never saw it all those decades ago. The first time I encountered Sunset Boulevard live was when it got revived at the Coliseum in a summer in London before the pandemic. But, you know, within the last 6 or 7 years, can't remember exactly when, Glenn Close played Norma
Get
Desmond.
out. You're kidding me.
Yeah, and Glenn Close as Norma Desmond was an inspired choice.
Yeah,
because albeit Glenn Close is not a faded star, because she's still pretty damn brilliant.
No, of course she's brilliant, but casting, that's a whole other conversation. I think I saw it. Yeah, she must have been great.
Outstanding. She's
a star.
Correct. She may not have the best singing voice in musical theatre,
yeah.
But when you look at Glenn Close playing an elderly actress, which Norma Desmond is, playing an elderly actress who is long past her prime and is devastated at those consequences but doesn't realise it, Glenn Close was sensational.
I think I saw it with so long ago. I think it was Patti LuPone.
Patti LuPone, yes. I think Patti
everyone
LuPone
goes mad. I don't particularly like musical theatre. I can live without it. I'll be absolutely honest. It's not my thing. But yeah, she was terrific. I mean, my God, when she came down the staircase at the end, wow, what a moment. It was terrific. Must be, because I remember it from
And there was a lovely moment when Glenn Close had the run, although, you know, as I say, a few years ago at the Coliseum, she was indisposed for a few nights. And the understudy was a much lesser known actress, but I have to say, from a musical theatre perspective, as talented as any of them, a woman called Rhea Jones, who recently, 3 or 4 years ago, led the show on tour. Rhea, amazingly, back when Lloyd Webber and Don Black and Christopher Hampton were trialing the show out at Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sidmonton Festival decades ago, before you'd have even seen it in the West End with Patti LuPone, Rhea was cast then, a much younger Rhea, as Norma Desmond. And for her to actually come back in the show was something that was quite special. Rhea's a woman from Wales. And in fact, she was then in a production that started off at Curve Leicester and toured, went to Swansea, her hometown. I didn't see her do it in Swansea, but there's a line in As If We Never Said Goodbye, which is, I've come home at last. And the theatre in Swansea went absolutely wild.
Nuts, eh? But it went wild. Let me ask you a question, Jonathan, because you're a brain like your planet when it comes to all things musical theatre and theatre. Sunset Boulevard, based on a very famous black and white film. The Third Man, which was another musical by Don Black, got absolutely pasted. I mean, slammed. I went with a £5, I think a £5 ticket or a £10 ticket or something at the Menier Theatre. You know, it could be crap for £5. Who cares? And I really, you know, I enjoyed it, but then I'm fascinated by that film noir kind of feel. Again, it was all in black and white, etc., etc. Critics hated that. Critics love Sunset Boulevard. What is the magic ingredient?
Some critics loved Sunset Boulevard. Myself and Clive Davis in the Times both rated it as average.
Wow.
So I have to say, a lot of critics raved. There were more raves than average comments, but not everyone has raved about this. And yeah, I hear what you say about The Third Man. You know, critics, I thought The Third Man was an imaginative show. I mean, I did think at the time it was very, very niche, and that you needed to have a knowledge of the movie to know
I
what
agree.
the show was all
I
about.
agree,
And
because
I
otherwise you're
forgot
sitting.
to
Two
mention, Russ,
things. I think
Yep.
two things with that. It really helps to have knowledge of the movie and say, yeah, I know the storyline, so this is going to be interesting how they interpret it, because that adds a whole layer on top. And two, that's got to be a period of time which is of interest to you. And I think for a young audience, they're going to sit there and go, what the hell is this? For God's sake, out of the ark. They won't get it. I don't think they'll get it.
Yeah, you know, it depends how the show is written, how it's marketed, etc. Because Les Miserables is set around the French Revolution that no one's even heard of. It's not
precisely.
the French Revolution. It's another one.
No, I know.
And that packs them in.
I remember going to see Les Miserables again. It was a very early press show. It hadn't been seen before. And I sat there, and for the first 10 minutes, I loathed it. And I can't remember who I was with. I said, oh, God, I'm going to go. I can't. Oh, this is like the worst thing I've ever sat through. And then suddenly it went from being like, I hate this, to, oh, my God, I'm sobbing and I'm crying and I'm totally involved. Oh, it was just...
Well, the critics hate... When Les Mis first opened at the RSC, it was panned. You know, it was panned, but the audiences loved it. And something that I should say, going back to Sunset Boulevard briefly, which is incredibly disappointing, Billy Wilder co-wrote and directed the movie. And in every production I've seen before, he gets a credit based on the movie by Billy Wilder. There is no credit to Billy Wilder.
Did it not say based on the hits of Pussycat Dolls? I mean, this is where the world works these days.
And I thought to have erased Billy Wilder
it's
from
disgraceful.
The show's poster.
Sorry, it sucks. That sucks.
He wrote the story.
You know, anyway. Oh yeah, but apart from that, you got to put this into perspective. And people don't know this. People always think that authors and writers have a lot of influence. They have zero influence. The great Colin Dexter, who created Morse. Without Colin Dexter, there'd be no Morse. There'd be no Endeavour. Nothing. All came out of his head. Colin Dexter. Eventually, they invited him to go to some of the filming. Eventually, he was treated. I read the article. He was treated like the T-boy. It was like, no, can't do anything. He said, I've sat there thinking, wait a minute. I mean, it comes out. It's very weird when you've written stuff. And I used to do a lot of corporate videos, and we have all the actors who are very famous these days and were unknown then. And it's weird seeing them speak your words. It's a bizarre out-of-body experience. What's the next thing? The other way, Grand Pack. Not only will Jonathan Baz on Sunday, November the 5th, will there be a red carpet? Yes, it'll be leading from Piccadilly Circus Station round and then along Jermyn Street. And in fact, there'll be palm fronds and people throwing petals. Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
Sure.
There's a line.
Right, what's next, fella?
There's a line. The line in Sunset Boulevard, just picking on what you just said, which basically no one gives a damn when you're the writer, which is a great line that Joe Gillis says.
It is true. Grand Pack saying this. My wife saw Sunset Boulevard. This is from Grand Pack. I'm reading it out because a lot of people are listening to this, not seeing it. My wife saw Sunset Boulevard this week with a bunch of her girlfriends. She thought it was okay, but not as great as others had reviewed it as. Yeah. I guess, but then it's all down to personal taste. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. End of. That's it. That's life.
Referencing the Billy Wilder omission, chatting to a friend of mine who writes for The Stage, who really did not like the show, liked it less than me. He said, to be honest, I don't think Billy Wilder would have wanted to have been associated with this one. Which still,
but they haven't messed.
His name
but Jonathan, one last question, then we must move on to the next thing because we've got tons to get through. They didn't mess with the songs, right? The songs are still intact, I presume.
Well, they've tinkered with the words slightly, and I'm guessing that's Don Black and Christopher who've done that. Either
they're entitled. It's their stuff. That's okay.
No one else is co-credited as a lyricist. They chopped two of the songs. The song that deals with him getting all his new clothes on his birthday, and her song about seeing all the beauticians and various people as she gets herself ready to go to Paramount. So they've chopped two big songs. Interestingly, both of those songs have a little bit of comedy into the show. And Jamie Lloyd has decided to chop those, brought in his own bit of comedy with this video in a show, which I think is rather poor. So Yeah, like I
Nice
said,
comment from Graham Pack. Nice comment from Graham Pack. Not referencing Billy Wilder. I'm just adding so it makes sense in context. That's like not referencing J.K. Rowling in the Harry Potter shows.
Yeah, but there's a bit more, sadly, the politics behind not referencing.
Oh, let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. I'm not going into that garbage. I am not ruining my day. My days have been ruined on so many levels.
Yeah,
this ain't happening today.
Anyway,
right, next show,
moving
please.
on. I'm going to move down to Bath. Sadly, for a show that was on for a very, very short run, it closes tomorrow night. A new play with Brian Cox called The Score. Written by Oliver Cotton, actor, playwright, and it's a really imaginative concept, almost reminding me of Amadeus in its concept. Brian Cox plays Johann Sebastian Bach, and the play is about a trip that Bach made from his town Leipzig in Silesia to go and meet Frederick II, Frederick the Great, in Potsdam in Prussia. The meeting really happened when Bach was quite elderly. And Frederick the Great was a lot younger. It's all about music. The first half takes a hell of a long time to get going. And I have to say, when the interval came along, I was glad for a restorative gin and tonic. However, the second half...
That's the main point of going to the theatre, by the way.
The second half was insanely brilliant. Wow. The dynamic between Bach and Frederick the Great. You see Bach's, not only there's the parts of the story draws out Bach's musical genius. I don't believe Brian Cox is really playing the harpsichord. I suspect it was recorded by someone very talented.
Spoiler alert.
But the musical argument that arrives between him and Frederick is brilliant. His passion for his home country is brilliantly expressed because Frederick's soldiers have recently invaded his town and brutally raped a young woman in Bach's hometown, which he takes the king to task over. And that had such a resonance with the brutality of what we've recently read about and heard of.
And seen.
Indeed. So as I say, the first half took a long time to get going. Second half, absolutely brilliant. So the play needs a bit of work, but it's a fabulous idea. And I have to say, I came out of the second half really impressed by what I've seen and the research.
And where was that?
It's about to be. It's got one more night at the Theatre Royal in Bath, directed by Trevor Nunn, who of course also did Third Man. Okay. Right. Brian Cox's wife is in the show. Bach's wife is played by his real life wife, Nicole Ansari Cox. She's great. The music's terrific. The story, when it gets going, is 5-star brilliance. So that finishes tomorrow.
Can I just give a big plug to Brian Cox? I've mentioned it before. The one thing that keeps me sane, literally, are my audiobooks and listening to plays and things as I walk the dog or if I'm driving, because I find the world absolutely horrific at the moment. So, and I've done it for many, many years. It really does help my mental health. There is a wonderful BBC series, but you can get it on audible.com as well. You can just buy the whole series because there was many of them, starring Brian Cox, and it's called McLeavy. And he plays a detective in Edinburgh in about the 1700s and 1750s or some late 1700s. And the characterization is great. Brian Cox is wonderful as this policeman, world weary, solving mysteries, dealing with corruption. And you really feel that you're in Edinburgh at that time. A wonderful historical feel. So if you like stuff like that, it's called McLeavy. He plays this world weary policeman. You can get it on BBC Sounds, or which I hate plugging, but even better, buy it on audible.com and get all the shows. I think you'll really enjoy it. That's Brian Cox. Right.
Thank you.
Next one.
Next up, a show that I've already spoken about when it was on at the National Theatre. Now just transferred to the Prince Edward for a run until January is Dear England, the Gareth Southgate play. It was brilliant at the National Theatre. I didn't go myself to review it at the Prince Edward, but I sent one of my excellent team to cover it for me, and I thought they came up with a banger of a line that I'd wish I'd thought of myself, which described it as this might be one of the most important London transfers since Declan Rice moved from West Ham to Arsenal. So I was quite
no idea what you just said. Absolutely not.
Anyone who follows football out there, no.
Well, I don't. Move on. We don't talk about
football. It was a great play at the National. It remains a great play at the Prince Edward. Interestingly, the Prince Edward, famed for putting on musicals, this is the first straight play at the Prince Edward, arguably since the Second World War. It's a big London house, and the play is so good that it'll probably fill it out as best as a theatre can. It's a great production. If you missed it at the National, go and see it now. If you love footy, you will absolutely love this play.
Can I ask a serious question?
Yeah.
If you hate football, like I have no interest in it whatsoever. I just don't. It's not my thing. Never has been. Do you sit there going, "Oh God," or do you sit there going, "This is a great piece of theatre"?
It is. Look, it is a great piece of theatre, but a lot of the impersonations, the characterizations that are on stage, which are very clever, will be going over your head. It draws a lot of people. Yeah, it draws a lot of history of England's generally failures in penalty shootouts, etc., etc. So football knowledge is not essential for the play, but certainly recommended.
Before you go, so that's Dear England. Now, where are we? I want to do something clever, and there we go to do that. Now, here's a question for you from Karen Shortland. I'll read it out because a lot of people are listening and not watching, apparently. Karen Shortland says this: any thoughts on the newly revamped version of Starlight Express? Oh God, Phil Dave can't wait. The ALW, Andrew Lloyd Webber, is bringing back next summer. I love the original show, but the Part 3D version of a few years ago really wasn't the same. What do you have to say about that?
I'm not sure what she means by 3D version, because theatre always is in 3D. If you want to see something 2D, it's on the cinema.
God, Jonathan Baz, satirist to the stars.
The play back in the day at the Victoria Palace, or the Apollo Victoria, whatever it's called. Yeah, it was the Victoria. No, I forget. Anyway, it was on the Victoria.
We don't care. It's the one you can never park near in Victoria.
Correct. Which had roller skate track going round the theatre, and I'm sure there will be something similar at Wembley Park Troubadour. And what I quite look forward to that is that theatre, that space is massive, and it's a very versatile space, the old television studios there. It will be, I think it will be physically as exciting as it was originally. Quite how they tinker with it, who knows? But I'm looking forward to it. It's a show that needs a lot of physicality, a lot of space. It's got people pretending to be trains. Trains need railway tracks that need lots of space to move around. So I think it will be a very interesting production.
Jonathan, thank you so much. Now, are you going to hang around, or are you going to dash off?
I just wanted to drop in a couple of things about Bill Kenwright.
Oh, please do. We should. In fact, if you're going to do that, I'm going to bring on Chantal.
By all means.
Because she will have undoubtedly met. Hi, Chanters. How are you?
Hello.
So Jonathan is just going to say a few words, which is wonderful, about the great Bill Kenwright, who we lost this week.
I know. Amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say, Jonathan.
I'm just going to reference a couple of shows. First one was really quite obscure. I saw it in 2016 when it opened in Birmingham, a stage version of The Exorcist, round about the time of Halloween. The show was completely tongue-in-cheek, but done seriously. No one goes to see The Exorcist on stage expecting, as a devotee of the horror genre, to see it done with the same. It was done with seriousness, but the special effects, the magic, the illusions, there was a lot of grinning, a lot of laughter throughout the stage show, affectionate laughter in the way that there obviously never would have been in the film, because the film was horrific, and rightly so. Bill Kenwright produced it, directed by Sean Mathias, who's done a lot of work with Bill. Bill's very, very lovely squeeze, Jenny Seagrove, played the mum of Regan.
We like her. What a nice woman.
I forget what the name of that character is. She was great. They wrote in Ian McKellen as the voice of the devil, when Regan opens her mouth and speaks, and it's the devil coming out of her voice box, it's Ian McKellen's voice talking, and he doesn't get a credit in the program. And I just thought this was inspired stagecraft and brilliantly produced. And the other reference that I'll make to Ken Wright, and then I'll be gone, is Blood Brothers, which before this year, the last time I'd seen it was 20 years ago. This time, saw it again, got invited to review it on tour at the Richmond Theatre. The theatre was packed. Quite a few school coaches were in because it's on the GCSE syllabus, and bloody good job too, because frankly, it's better than the bullshit that school children get exposed to at Shakespeare's Globe these days. And it was a show that I'd almost thought about writing the review as I was on the train down to Richmond, because we all know Blood Brothers. But actually, the production, which was identical from how I'd seen it 20 years ago, and in fact with my wife, just reduced me to tears again. It
Wonderful
was so
show.
brilliant. It was written in Thatcher's England, but it still spoke to us today. Bill Kenwright has such an eye for, or had such an eye for producing and developing absolute genius. And a quick plug, as I've mentioned the show, it's on in Saffron Walden this tour until tomorrow. It plays in Bradford next week, and then it's off for Christmas as the pantos coming across the country.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Boom, boom. And then it's back again next year. But that wraps me up, and that's my tribute to Bill Kenwright.
Jonathan, thank you so much. I love it when you come on, because you don't hold back, and it's your proper opinion. It's not like the way it has to be. It's honest, and that's what we like at Men's Radio Station, don't we, Howard and Penny? We like honesty. Right, Jonathan, until a couple of weeks' time, take care.
Bye, Jonathan.
Always enjoy that. Right, from theatre, ladies and gentlemen. If I can find your little tune, I love your little tune.
Oh, don't worry about that.
Oh, here we go. No.
We love TV. No doubt about it, we love TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chantal Rickards OBE.
How are you, Russ?
I'm okay. If you're wondering where the little chap is, the little chap has a family obligation, and he wrote to me. He said, well, I can dash back. I said, no, you're not going to dash back. Put your family first. But I did say at the front end of the show, how long does it take to empty your mum's bins? Come on. Jeez.
Oh, I bet she's got him doing more than that.
Well, she's got him doing a lot. She's got him doing a hell of a lot. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you. Bill Kenwright, by the way, just an amazing man. And I met him a few times. And every time I met him, I'm not in theatre, I'm not an actor, I don't sing, I don't do any of that. And he was so lovely to me. And I'm thinking, where's Bill Kenwright? Oh, God. Well, you know what I'm like in real life. And he was just charming. Our condolences to Jenny Seagrove and to Bill's family as well. Now, I want to say a huge thank you to you. You suggested to you, Chantal Rickards of Somewhere in London, because you suggested a show on Netflix called Bodies. That was you. You talked about it. So I thought, I'll give it a little go. Things are going around. I need to chill out. And I binge watched 4 episodes one night, and I binge watched the next 4 episodes the next night till about 3 in the morning. Holy moly, it is sensational.
Good. Well, you're way ahead of me. I'm a long way behind that. Have you got to the end?
Had to know. No spoilers. Don't worry, I'm not that daft. But I had to know what was going to happen next. What they did with this, and it's so hard to pull off. They had 4 completely different storylines linked in 4 different periods of time. And normally you go, we've got to go back to this one. I was really enjoying it. You are gripped by each storyline in each timeline. I was dazzled by it. Yeah. Just dazzled. It's called Bodies. It's
great. It's 4 stories and then a 5th overarching story. And you're right, it's incredibly difficult to pull that off. It's an editing masterpiece in a way, and how they interweave the stories and keep them all on, you know, on similar tracks. It's fascinating. Good. I'm glad you got to the end.
It's not just that. The acting is great.
Yeah.
And not just that, but it's so hard when you're writing 4 totally different stories with 4 totally different characters and sets of characters and circumstances. You can't choose which one you like the best. They're all just fantastic. Thank you so much. I absolutely loved it. That's Bodies. It's on Netflix with the great Stephen Graham, who excels himself as always. Just really clever stuff. Clever stuff.
I'm playing quite a different role for him. I mean, he you know, he looks different, he sounds different. It's, you know, but he's a genius actor.
I loved the way his accent kept slipping in and out. I'm not going to explain why. Although I can't ask on air because it's a complete spoiler alert. No, I can't even, you haven't seen the end. Right, I can't even ask you. When you finish watching it, I have a huge issue because I've found one enormous hole in the plot, which has been driving me mad for nearly a week. You know what I'm like, thinking, wait a minute. But of course, when you deal with time travel, it's never complete because there's always something. But anyway, Bodies, Netflix, fabulous.
Good. Excellent. I mean, my only theory on time travel is if time travel existed, I think all those sort of history undergraduates from 2090 would be back here studying up on the early 2000s just to sort of find out what was going on. But who knows? Maybe they are here. Maybe they're just around us.
And just say, stop, for God's sake. Stop that. Anyway, there we are. Time travel. It was very clever. What I loved, there was one thing that I liked, because what I really liked Shantas was that they didn't delve into a complete cul-de-sac. Because you can't. There's no science to explain the stuff. You just got to go with it or go and watch something else. Absolutely. And they just admitted that. The same as they did when Linda Hamilton gives that speech in Terminator. It's, in other words, saying, yeah, I know. Completely implausible, isn't it? But just kind of go with it. Who knows? And I always thought, yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's bobbing in the shower. It's suspending.
What have you seen? All belief in. That's great.
What have I seen? Well, I've been going to the movies a lot because, as you know, it's the screening season for the BAFTAs and the Emmys and the Globes and et cetera, the Oscars. And so all the BAFTA members are sent invitations by the cartload every day to go and see movies that are being put on by the publicity teams or the studios. So this week I went to see the much heralded, much talked about, a film that actually it isn't a catchy title, but it's called Killers of the Flower Moon, which is actually the title of a book that was taken on.
You're talking to me?
Taken up by Martin Scorsese.
You're talking to me?
Now 80 years old, and featuring Leonardo DiCaprio and the most wonderful actress I have seen in a very long time, called Lily Gladstone. And I'm going to tell you about Lily Gladstone because, I mean, this movie has got Oscars written all over it. But I would literally, if I've got 100 quid spare, and I haven't, but if I had 100 quid spare, I would go and put it on this woman called Lily Gladstone, who is the lead character, the lead woman in this film. I need to explain briefly what the story is about, because otherwise none of it will really make any sense. It's a true story. It dates back to I think it sort of starts around 1910 and goes through to about 1930. And it's at a time in Oklahoma where the First Nations Americans are being given land rights. And so 2,500 people who are members of the Osage community are given rights in their own land. But then they are given the rights, but a lot of them have to have guardians, because clearly people think that they're not appropriate enough, they are not sensible enough to be able to sort of manage their own parcels of land. They all get about 650 acres each. But the whole point is that having been given this land, suddenly they realize that this land contains oil underneath it. and there is a massive oil boom on this small pocket of land in Oklahoma. And suddenly the Osage Nation of 2,500 people become the richest nation on earth, i.e. the richest ethnic group on the planet. And they buy cars and they buy big houses and they all have maids and servants. And these are First Nations people, but they are all told by the government that they have to have guardians who will approve their expenditure or not. I mean, even thinking about it now, it sounds ridiculous. But of course, this leaves the whole thing open for criminality to come in. And the basic story here is Leonardo DiCaprio gets together with an Indian woman who has these rights. But the backstory is that the Americans are infiltrating the Osage women so that they can have them bear children, and the rights would pass to the children. And then suddenly all these women start getting murdered. So initially they think that up to 60 women may have been murdered in this true story, but they're now reviewing it all and saying it may have been hundreds of people. And this was absolutely orchestrated for basically the white Americans to try and get back the land rights that had been given away to the local First Nations Indian population. I mean, it's an extraordinary story. Leonardo DiCaprio is the nephew of a very evil man played by Robert De Niro, and Robert De Niro is the perpetrator of all bad things.
He always is. Of course.
Indeed, he
now,
always
shall
is.
I tell you something? Shall I tell you something interesting that you may not know?
Okay.
Every Saturday I meet up with Ray Gelato. I meet up every Saturday with Ray Gelato and Colin Vaines, film producer, who worked, as you know, with Scorsese. He produced Gangs of New York and many other things.
Of course.
Originally, DiCaprio, it was going to be one of those things where he plays like the investigating detective from the FBI or whatever it was at the time. And he was going to go in and solve the crime of what was going on. And then DiCaprio said to Scorsese, because this has been a Scorsese project for 20 years, I think, something huge. He's wanted to do it for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. And DiCaprio said, you know what? That is just too boring, because it's just the white guy coming in to solve a problem with Native Americans. And it's like, there's not much I can do with that character. I think it'd be much more interesting if I become one of the people inside. In other words, not the protagonist hero, but someone who's involved with one of the Native Americans. And so they rewrote the whole thing. And of course, it's way, way, way more effective. But what a brave thing to do, because he could have just, cruised in as the hero.
Indeed.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's meant to be fantastic. I'm a massive Scorsese fan. Massive Scorsese fan.
It is 3.5 hours, so take a packed lunch.
Oh God, I'll get hangry.
Yeah, although you might get hangry. I ate before I went. It is going to come out on Apple. It's an Apple film, Apple TV film, but it's in cinema at the moment. They haven't said when it's going to go out onto Apple streaming. They're obviously sort of going to sweat the cinema asset as long as they can. And when the cinema audiences tail off, then they will put it on Apple TV. And it may be better to watch it that way. But I went with a girlfriend and I said, look, if we get through the first 2 hours, we can always come back tomorrow or the day after and watch the next 90 minutes. And so we went in without thinking that, well, we just knew that we could.
Did you not go in with the remote control sharpers and just press pause? And the whole audience go, what the bloody hell's going on here? And you just go, be back tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, no, fortunately, because I get free tickets to go and see these things, it wouldn't have been a great sort of, awfulness for me to go back the following day. But although the first hour is quite slow, and the ending where Scorsese just does a little cameo, I think is a bit weird, but that's my personal opinion. Actually, we got through the first hour and then the story begins to speed up. And then you actually get taken with it. So we didn't want to leave. We stayed for the full 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours. Oh God!
But
here's how stupid I am. A little tiny insight into what happened to me 2 weeks ago. My
Yeah.
lovely friend Jane Kerner, who I work with at Variety Club. I don't know if you met her. She's a wonderful.
I
woman.
remember her name. Yeah.
Jane is great, great theatrical producer herself, a great backer of theatre. Yeah, very interesting woman. She says, I'm going to BAFTA, going to see the new Scorsese film. My pals dropped out. Come with me. And I said, Jane, I have got to deliver the next novel by Christmas. I'm cancelling everything social. I'm not doing anything. I can't go. So sorry. Colin goes to the same screening. And who's he yakking with? And I could have met Martin Scorsese.
Oh.
And I was like, and he sent me all the pictures of him with Mark, arm around him, and they're all smiling. And I'm going, you are kidding me. I was like livid. I was livid with myself. I just want to shake his hand because I think he's a genius, but that's just me.
Okay. So is that a no then for Monday night? Just a little piece of personal business. I did send you an invitation for Monday night.
I've replied immediately.
Ooh, I'll
Not
check my emails.
I replied immediately and said yes. I said thank you so much. I said it sounds great. Yes, I need a break. I'll be working. I'll be working all Sunday, so I'll be writing all Sunday. So what the heck? No. Absolutely. I'll see you then.
Anyway.
Yeah, can't wait to go to that branch of Subway. It's going to be great.
Oh, well.
Very sweet. I got to tell everybody how nice Chantal is. She sends me a list. Do any of these appeal? And it's like, no, God, no. Rather shoot myself. No. Oh, that, and I always do. But she knows me too well. So she's now weeded out all the stuff that she knows.
I have.
She's very clever. What's
No,
next?
I'm getting better at knowing what you like.
Yeah. Documentaries about jaguars in the jungle.
Yeah, no, let's not go back to that one. That was a fail. For those that don't know the very story, I invited Russ to the wrong screening. Or we went to the wrong whatever it was jolly confusing.
We meant to see a really exciting film, and I'm sitting there going, I don't see any. Where's the action? What the hell are we watching? What's some documentary about cats?
No, that was a bit random. Right, listen, there's something else you should see on Netflix. I'll go to a couple of recommendations this week that I have 100% on Netflix, and this is one of them. And it's a German thriller called Dear Child. Actually, it is worth getting through. It's 6 1 hours. It's a sort of perfect Friday night and Saturday night, just sit and just binge the whole lot. It's really rather good, but it starts in a forest. Often the German series always start on a dark night in a forest. I don't know what it is about German television, but
it was a dark and windy night. They start everything.
It's always a dark and windy night. A woman rushes out into the road with a child in the middle of a forest in night clothes. She is hit by a car, and then you find out that this woman and this young daughter, or this young girl, I should say, without trying to confuse people, this young girl have been held captive in a house in the forest for some time.
And what's it called?
It's called Dear Child, which is not a great title, but I mean, I presume the German title was slightly more interesting. And it's really about sort of coercive control. It's about somebody, pretty bad. I mean, I'm not really going to give you much of the story other than these people, this woman and 2 children, you find out there are 2 children involved, and potentially other people, there's a sort of backstory going on, have been held captive by, a German lunatic. Anyway, there we are. I'm not going to tell you anymore. It is a great, dark thriller in the sort of Nordic style, and it's easily bingeable, and it's on Netflix, and it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so lots of people are loving it.
If you don't know Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, they are really brutal. They are not generous with their ratings. If they don't like it, boy, oh boy, do they tell you they don't like it. Getting 100% on that is like the second coming. It's a big deal.
It is.
Big deal. So, and it's all subtitled, I presume.
Yes.
I don't like it dubbed. I don't like it dubbed. I can't bear it when it's dubbed.
It's dubbed and subtitled. So turn it back to the German speech,
yeah.
and then just watch the subtitles. That's probably easier.
Because I watched again
I
on
don't like
Amazon. I watched on Amazon an Austrian detective thing.
Yeah.
The premise was great. The delivery was rubbish, and they go, sort of, hello, because it's all dubbed, and they're obviously good actors, but the dubbing was like, I don't know if they were just bored stupid or they had a lunch appointment. It was like, hello, Chantal, how are you?
I know, it's horrible.
I'm fine, thank you. Oh
Yeah.
no, there's a gun. Yes, don't move. And I'm thinking, oh, come on.
Yeah. No, I would
Okay.
hazard a guess that if you are just doing voiceovers for dubbed international material, that you're probably not quite at the top of the sort of BAFTA actors pecking order. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
You could be wrong because it's just badly done. Right. Next.
But the other thing that's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and really, I think you and I both love this series, and so you'll be pleased that it's back. And this is the longest streaming series that has existed from the beginning of streaming to now, and it is Bosch, which is on Amazon Prime. There were 7 original series starting from the very early days, the first days of Amazon Prime. This was one of their very, very first series, and it's still going. So there were 7 series of Bosch as a detective, a police detective in Los Angeles. A story created by Michael Connolly, the crime writer who used to be a journalist covering night crime in Los Angeles himself. And so in the first 7 series, Bosch is a copper. Different, secondary characters come and go, but always a really good ripping yarn in the middle of it. And then Bosch Legacy came on streaming a year ago, and he is now a private detective, and this is the 2nd series. So really, if you haven't experienced Bosch, go right back to the very beginning and watch the whole lot. But if you just want to sort of play catch up, then come in at Bosch Legacy season 1 and season 2.
I thought season 3 was a bit weak when it just concentrated on him, how he manufactured dishwashing machines.
There is going to be a season 3. Maybe there'll be a dishwasher machine in it. They have announced there will be a season 3, which I'm very pleased to see. But this is absolutely cracking. The first 4 episodes dropped last Friday, as they describe it, and more episodes dropped today. So, but it's Titus Welliver is such a good actor, and people who like Bosch love it. That's why it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's very well written stuff, and he's just brilliant.
It is good, and the main actor is a terrific. Oh gosh, what's his name?
Titus Welliver. Yeah,
Titus Welliver, who's such an interesting guy.
A name to reckon with.
A brilliant impressionist as well, by the way. Extraordinary impressionist.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He plays Hieronymus.
We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Oh, something light and frothy again.
Yes,
brand
please.
new season back on the BBC. Fake or Fortune, which is presented by.
That.
It's lovely. It's really lovely. Fiona Bruce and the art dealer Philip Mould trying to work out whether a sculpture is really an Elizabeth Frink or not, or a painting is really by Canaletto or not. And it plays out over an hour. It's just a perfect piece of television. It's always cheerful. You learn so much. It's terrific. So that's Fake or Fortune.
It's really interesting because you think, I bet if someone was pitching it, they go, oh, that's a bit dull, a bit niche. But when you watch it, somehow you get involved and you think, I really do want to know. What the hell do I know about Canaletto? Too cheesy for me. Thank you. That's the best you're going to get all weekend.
No worries. So, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. I will be back, God willing, on Monday with Neil and the gang. Chantal, have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Monday evening. Until then, take care. Bye, everybody.